The chamber was vast beyond comprehension. Ambassador Marcus Webb stood at the center of a platform that floated in the air, suspended by technology he could barely understand. Above him, around him, stretching into what seemed like infinity, sat representatives from thousands of worlds. The Galactic Council had assembled, and Earth was on trial. Marcus kept his hands clasped behind his back, his face showing nothing. He had practiced this moment for months. Show no fear. Show no weakness. Let them wonder what you are thinking. The Council of Apex Powers occupied the highest tier of the chamber. These were the 7 civilizations that ruled the galaxy. It's the ancient species who had explored the stars while humans still hunted with stone tools. The Valkyrie matriarch dominated the center position. Her massive form wrapped in ceremonial armor that gleamed like liquid mercury. Her 4 eyes, each the size of Marcus's head, glowed with an unsettling purple light. To her left sat the representatives of the Trell hive mind. They appeared as a cluster of identical beings moving in perfect synchronization, speaking with one voice that came from 1,000 mouths at once. Their collective intelligence was said to rival the processing power of entire planetary computer networks. On the right, the Luminar High Sage floated in a containment sphere, its body composed entirely of coherent energy. The Luminars had achieved transcendence from physical form to million years ago. They viewed biological species with the same mix of nostalgia and condescension that humans might feel watching children play. The other 4 members of the Apex Powers were equally impressive and equally terrifying. Each commanded fleets that could sterilize planets. Each possessed technology that seemed like magic to younger species. And all of them were staring at Marcus Webb with varying degrees of contempt. The Luminor High Sage spoke first. Its voice bypassed Marcus's ears entirely, appearing directly in his mind through neural translation technology. The sensation was deeply uncomfortable, like having thoughts that were not his own. Human Ambassador Marcus Webb, you stand accused before this Council of 47 violations of the Controlled Expansion Protocols. Your species has colonized 17 systems beyond your authorized zone. Your population growth exceeds sustainable parameters by 300%. Your resource consumption threatens regional stability across 4 sectors. Marcus said nothing. He simply looked up at the glowing being with calm, dark eyes. The Valkyrie matriarch leaned forward, her massive claws scraping against the armrests of her throne. When she spoke, the translation devices embedded in the walls struggled to convey the full contempt in her voice. Furthermore, humanity has been observed building military installations in direct violation of Treaty 9. We have detected weapons. Research facilities on 7 of your colony worlds. Your fleet expansion suggests aggressive intentions toward neighboring systems. You display all the warning signs of a species that will become a threat to galactic peace. The chamber erupted in a chorus of alien sounds. Clicks, whistles, harmonic resonances, and electromagnetic pulses that Marcus's neural implant translated into words of agreement. The council had already made up its mind. This was not a trial. It was a sentencing. The Trell hive mind spoke next, its 1,000 voices creating an eerie harmony. The council has deliberated for 3 months. The evidence is overwhelming. Humanity must be contained. We propose exile from the galactic community. Earth and all human colonies will be restricted to your home system. All expansion is forbidden. All treaties are void. You will be isolated until your species learns discipline. The chamber fell silent, waiting for his response, waiting for him to beg, to protest, to show the fear they expected from a species facing extinction of its dreams. Instead, he smiled. It was a small smile, barely noticeable. But in the vast silence of the council chamber, it seemed to echo like thunder. I have a question, Marcus said, his voice calm and conversational. Before you pass your sentence, the Valkyrie matriarch's eyes flared brighter. You dare to speak without permission? I dare to ask where you think we have been for the past 3 months. Confusion rippled through the chamber. The representatives of 1,000 worlds shifted in their seats, their various appendages twitching with uncertainty. Marcus continued, his smile growing slightly wider. You called this council session 3 months ago? You began your deliberations about Earth's fate 94 days ago, to be precise. During those 94 days, where did you think humanity was? The Luminar High Sage's glow intensified with irritation. You were contained within your authorized territory, as mandated by preliminary injunction. Our monitoring systems confirmed your compliance. Your monitoring systems, Marcus said softly, confirmed exactly what we wanted you to see. He raised his hand, and the chamber exploded with light. Holographic displays materialized throughout the vast space, not projected from the council's systems, but from something else entirely. The displays showed star maps, thousands of them, cascading through the air like a waterfall of light, systems that were not in council databases, galaxies that were far beyond the rim of known space, clusters of stars that should not be reachable with any technology the council understood, and on every single one, simple blue marker with text in multiple languages, humanity. The chamber descended into chaos. Representatives from hundreds of species began speaking at once, their translation devices creating a cacophony of sound. The apex powers leaned forward as one, their attention locked on the impossible images before them. These are fabrications, the Valkyrie matriarch snarled. Lies designed too. They are real-time feeds, Marcus interrupted. Transmissions from human colonies in Andromeda, Triangulum, Sculptor, and 14 other galaxies. Galaxies your ships cannot reach. Galaxies your technology says are impossible to colonize. He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. Galaxies we have been settling for the past 280 years. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the constant background hum of the chamber's systems seemed to fade away. Marcus looked up at the 7 most powerful beings in the galaxy and spoke with quiet confidence. You called us here to exile us from your galaxy. That is your right, but I need you to understand something. He gestured at the holographic displays surrounding them. We left your galaxy 3 centuries ago. The Luminar High Sage's voice was no longer condescending. That is impossible. We would have detected such expansion. Our surveillance networks monitor all threshold technology. No species can achieve faster than light travel without us knowing. You monitor threshold technology, Marcus agreed. We invented something different. A new hologram materialized, showing a complex mathematical formula that filled the air with glowing symbols. Marcus watched as the council's scientists began analyzing it, saw the moment understanding dawned on their faces. We call it the threshold drive, Marcus said. It uses quantum entanglement at a macro scale to fold space. Your scientists missed it because they assumed certain constants were actually constant. We proved they were not. He smiled again, that small, knowing smile. Humanity has 890 billion citizens across 2,400 star systems in 17 galaxies. Earth is one of our smallest settlements now. We keep it populated mainly for sentimental reasons. The Valkyrie matriarch rose from her throne, her massive form radiating fury. Then you have built a hidden empire to attack us. You have violated every principle of the Galactic Order. The sound was strange in the vast chamber, almost inappropriate. Attack you? Why would we bother? We have 17 galaxies. We do not need yours. Then why reveal yourself now? The Trell Hivemind's question cut through the chaos. Why come to this trial at all, if you have such power? Marcus's expression changed. The amusement vanished, replaced by something harder, something that made even the apex powers pause. Because 3 months ago, while you were preparing to judge us, we detected something. Something coming from the void between galactic clusters. Something that will reach your space in approximately 14 months. He raised his hand again, and new images appeared. Astronomical data showing massive distortions in space-time, gravitational waves strong enough to warp light across millions of light years. Something enormous, something ancient, moving through the darkness between galaxies with terrible purpose. Despite everything, Marcus said quietly. Despite the fact that you were about to exile us, despite your contempt for our species, we thought you should know. He looked up at the council with eyes that held no anger, only determination. Because whatever our differences, We do not abandon people to face extinction alone. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had lasted for 6 hours. Marcus Webb remained on the floating platform, now surrounded by containment fields that glowed with blue energy. They had not arrested him exactly. They had made it clear he would not be leaving until they had answers. The Valkyrie. Matriarch's voice thundered through the chamber. You expect us to believe that an ancient threat conveniently appears just as your species faces exile. This is deception. This is manipulation designed to avoid judgment. Marcus had expected this reaction. Paranoia was a survival trait for species that had clawed their way to the top of galactic civilization. Trust did not come easy. Acidly to those who had fought for every advantage. Believe what you want, he said calmly. But ask yourself this question. If we wanted to deceive you, why would we need to? You were already preparing to exile us. We could have simply activated our threshold drives and disappeared. You would never have seen us again. Luminar High Sage spoke, its energy form pulsing with what might have been contemplation. Then why did you not disappear? Why reveal your capabilities at all? Because we are not like you, Marcus said. The statement was simple, but it carried weight. When humanity first reached the stars, we were alone. We searched for decades, desperate to find any sign of other intelligent life. When we finally discovered the galactic community, when we realized we were not alone in the universe, it changed us fundamentally. He gestured at the assembled representatives from thousands of worlds. You see competitors, threats, resources to be managed. We see neighbors. We see the answer to the question that haunted us for centuries. And we do not abandon neighbors to extinction. A new voice entered the conversation. Throne Captain Vex of the Valkyrie military spoke from his position in the lower tiers. Pretty words from a species that hid an empire for 3 centuries. You speak of honesty while lying to the entire galaxy. We never lied, Marcus corrected. We simply did not tell you everything. There is a difference. Every species in this chamber keeps secrets. The Luminars have not shared their transcendence technology. The Trell protect the algorithms of their hive consciousness. The Valkyrie guard their faster-than-light communication systems. Secrets are how civilizations survive, but not empires. Throne Captain Vex shot back. Empires are built on conquest and domination. We built colonies, not an empire, Marcus said. Every human settlement governs itself. We have no emperor, no single government controlling 17 galaxies. We have cooperation and shared culture. That is not the same thing, Trell Hivemind interrupted, its 1,000 voices creating complex harmonies. You distract us with philosophy. We must address the practical question. You claim something is coming from the void. Provide proof that is not easily fabricated. Marcus had been waiting for this. He sent a signal through his neural implant, and the holographic displays shifted. New data appeared, showing gravitational measurements taken from human observatories in different galaxies. The readings were identical, showing the same massive distortion approaching from the same direction. These readings are from 17 independent observatory networks, Marcus explained. Each one in a different galaxy. Each one showing the same phenomenon. Unless you believe we have been fabricating data across 17 galaxies for 3 months just to create an elaborate hoax, this is real. The Luminar High Sage studied the data in silence. Then its voice came, softer than before, almost hesitant. The pattern is familiar. We have seen these signatures before in the ancient records. 2 million years ago, before we achieved transcendence, our ancestors documented a great cleansing. They called it the time of silence, when 17 galaxies went dark simultaneously. All communication ceased. All civilizations vanished. The chamber fell into stunned quiet. The Luminars rarely spoke of their pre-transcendence history. For the High Sage to reference it now meant the threat was real. The Devourers, the High Sage continued. That is what the old records called them. They consumed all biological matter in a galaxy and moved on, leaving nothing but empty worlds. Our ancestors thought they were destroyed in a great war, but the records were unclear. If they survived, if they merely hibernated in the void between galaxies, then they are returning, Marcus finished. and they are drawn to concentrations of advanced civilizations. The more life in a galaxy, the stronger the attraction. Throne Captain Vex stood, his massive form towering over the other representatives. You bring us news of extinction and expect us to trust the species that deceived us. How do we know you have not brought the Devourers here intentionally? Because we would be destroying ourselves, Marcus said simply. We have colonies here too. Earth is in this galaxy. Our birth world, the place where humanity began, is in the path of the Devourers. Do you really think we would sacrifice our home just to harm you? A representative from the Kerr Valley Confederacy spoke up, its voice translated as a series of melodic tones. Then what do you propose? If the Devourers are truly coming, what can be done? Marcus took a deep breath. This was the moment everything hinged on. We propose an alliance. Humanity will share the threshold drive technology with any species willing to help defend this galaxy. We will provide our military capabilities, our construction fleets, our resources. In exchange, we need your stellar engineering, your energy projection systems, your knowledge of ancient threats. You speak of defense, the Valkyrie matriarch said. But how does one defend against something that consumed 17 galaxies? You do not defend, Marcus said. You trap it. New holograms appeared, showing a complex network of gravitational anchors surrounding the galaxy's outer rim. The design was ambitious, bordering on insane. It proposed using the galaxy itself as a weapon. We turn this galaxy into a cage, Marcus explained. We let the Devourers enter, and then we seal them in. With the combined technology of every species in this council, we can create a gravitational barrier strong enough to contain them. Then we fight them here, in one decisive battle, using every advantage we have. That is madness, a dozen voices said at once. It is strategy, Marcus countered. The Devourers move from galaxy to galaxy, consuming everything and moving on. They have never been trapped before, never been forced to fight a united resistance. If we run, they will follow. If we hide, they will find us. But if we fight them here, if we stop them permanently, we save not just this galaxy, but every galaxy they would have consumed next. The Luminar High Sage's energy form pulsed rapidly, indicating deep thought. You propose sacrificing this galaxy to save others. I propose saving this galaxy by making it the battlefield, Marcus said. We do not sacrifice anything if we win. And if we lose, Throne Captain Vex demanded, then we lose fighting together, and the other galaxies have time to prepare. The human colonies in Andromeda and Triangulum will survive. They can warn the next galaxies in the Devourer's path. But I did not come here planning to lose. The council chamber descended into chaos again. Representatives argued in hundreds of languages, their translation devices creating a storm of sound. Some species called for evacuation. Others demanded more proof. A few suggested surrendering to the Devourers and hoping for mercy. Marcus stood silent in the center of it all, waiting. He had said everything he could. Now the galaxy had to choose. Finally, the Luminar High Sage called for order. Its voice cut through the chaos like a blade. We will vote. Those in favor of alliance with humanity, make your position known. The voting took an hour. Marcus watched as species that had existed for millions of years struggled with the choice. Trust the newcomers who had deceived them, or face the ancient threat alone. When the count finished, a council administrator announced the results. 4,127 species in favor, 3,854 against, 2,019 abstaining. The measure passes. Marcus allowed himself to breathe. It was close, far closer than he had hoped, but it was enough. Then let us begin, he said. My people have been waiting for your decision. He sent another signal and the star maps updated. Throughout the galaxy, thousands of human ships decloaked. Not warships, but construction vessels, supply transports, and mobile factories. They had been positioned for weeks, waiting in stealth for the Council's decision. We hoped you would choose to fight, Marcus said quietly. We have much work to do. The construction of the gravitational cage had been underway for 3 months. Marcus Webb stood in the observation deck of the Joint Command Station, watching as ships from 100 different species worked in perfect coordination. It should have been impossible. Species that had been enemies for centuries were now sharing technology and resources. The galaxy was transforming before his eyes, but something was wrong. Marcus could feel it in his bones, a tension that grew stronger each day. The Devourers were coming faster than predicted. What should have been a 14-month timeline had been revised to 9 months, then 7, now 6. Whatever intelligence guided the ancient enemy, it had sensed the galaxy's preparations. "You look worried, Ambassador?" Marcus turned to see the Luminor High Sage floating beside him. The ancient being had become his closest ally on the Council, though their partnership was born of necessity rather than trust. "We are running out of time," Marcus said simply. "The cage will not be complete before they arrive." "Then we will fight with an incomplete cage," the High Sage replied. "It is better than no defense at all." Marcus shook his head. "You do not understand. The Devourers are not just strong. They are smart. If they detect a weakness in the cage, they will exploit it. They will break through and scatter into the galaxy before we can contain them. Once that happens, we lose. What do you propose?" "I propose we consider alternatives. Evacuation plans. Fallback positions. We cannot put all our hope in one strategy." The High Sage's energy form pulsed with what might have been surprise. "You advocated for The's plan. You convinced the Council to commit everything to this defense. Now you speak of retreat." "I speak of survival," Marcus said. "I want to win. But I am not so arrogant that I cannot see when our chances are poor. The mathematics are clear. We need more time, and time is the one resource we cannot create." Their conversation was interrupted by an alert. Throne Captain Vex appeared on the communication screen, his 4 eyes blazing with urgency. "Ambassador Webb, High Sage, we have a situation. One of our scout fleets has encountered a Devourer Vanguard force. They engaged before they could retreat." "Show us," Marcus demanded. The observation decks displays filled with battle footage. Marcus watched in horror as the Velkari scout fleet, 3 dozen ships, equipped with the best weapons the galaxy could produce, engaged a single Devourer vessel. The enemy ship was massive, Isley, 10 times larger than the biggest Velkari battleship. Its hull seemed to be made of organic matter fused with metal. A nightmare of biological engineering, the scout fleet fired everything. Plasma cannons that could melt asteroids, missile barrages that could devastate planets, energy beams that distorted space itself. The Devourer vessel absorbed it all. Its hull rippled and changed, adapting to each weapon in real time. Within minutes, it had completely negated every attack. Then it fired back. A single pulse of dark energy that seemed to drink in light. The entire scout fleet vanished as if it had never existed. Marcus felt his blood run cold. "How far away is that Vanguard force?" 2 months at current speed, Thrawn Captain Vex reported, but they are accelerating. The main Devourer fleet is 4 months behind them. "The cage will not be ready in 2 months, the High Sage said quietly. Marcus made a decision. "Then we do not wait for them to reach us. We go to them." "That is suicide," Throne Captain Vex objected. "You saw what one ship did to an entire fleet. The Vanguard force has at least 50 vessels. "I saw what one ship did to a fleet that fought using conventional tactics," Marcus corrected. "The Devourers adapt to whatever they face. They have fought countless civilizations using the same strategies, the same weapons, the same approaches. They expect us to fight like everyone before us." "What are you suggesting?" the High Sage asked. "I am suggesting we show them something they have never seen before. We use the one advantage we have. We are not one species. We are thousands of species, each with different technologies, different tactics, different ways of thinking. The Devourers adapt quickly to single approaches. Let us see how they handle chaos." Within a week, a combined fleet assembled. It was unlike anything the galaxy had ever created. Valkyrie battleships equipped with human threshold drives. Trell hive ships integrated with Luminar energy systems. Kervali stealth vessels carrying weapons from a dozen different species. Every ship was a hybrid, combining technologies that had never been meant to work together. Marcus insisted on leading the fleet personally. The council argued, but he was adamant. This is humanity's responsibility. We revealed the threat. We proposed the strategy. We will take the greatest risk. The fleet engaged the Devourer Vanguard in deep space, far from any inhabited systems. Marcus watched from the bridge of the flagship as the battle began. The Devourers moved with frightening coordination, ships flowing around each. They're like a school of predatory fish. But the combined fleet fought like nothing the Devourers had encountered before. Valkyrie ships would engage, forcing the enemy to adapt to their tactics. Then they would retreat, and Trell vessels would attack using completely different approaches. The Devourers would begin adapting, and human ships would appear from threshold jumps in unexpected locations. Before the enemy could adjust, Luminar energy beings would phase through their holes. Disrupting systems from within, it was chaos. It was messy. It violated every principle of organized military strategy. It was working, for the first time in recorded history. Devourer vessels were being destroyed faster than they could adapt. The combined fleet lost ships, dozens of them, but the exchange rate was favorable. Where one of their ships died, 2 Devourer vessels fell, but then the enemy changed tactics. Instead of engaging, they scattered. The Vanguard force broke apart, each vessel fleeing in a different direction. Marcus realized the danger immediately. They are trying to escape the engagement zone. If they reach populated space and scatter throughout the galaxy, we will never contain them all. He made the hardest decision of his life. All ships execute protocol last light. Authorization code Web Alpha 7. On every human ship in the fleet, engines began overloading. Threshold drives that were designed to fold space instead began to tear it. The drives created gravitational implosions. Miniature black holes that lasted for only seconds, but pulled everything nearby into crushing singularities. 15 human ships destroyed themselves. Each explosion took multiple Devourer vessels with them. The Vanguard was annihilated completely. Marcus sat in the captain's chair, watching the sacrifice of crews who had volunteered for exactly this possibility. 1,500 humans had just died to save the galaxy. The main Devourer fleet has changed course, a Trell officer reported. They are no longer approaching directly. They are circling, searching for another path into the galaxy. We bought ourselves time, the High Sage said. Perhaps 2 additional months. 2 months to finish the cage, Marcus said quietly. We make those deaths mean something. We finish what they died for. Throne Captain Vex appeared on the communication screen again. His expression had changed. The contempt was gone, replaced by something that looked almost like respect. Ambassador Webb, the Valkyrie fleet stands ready to assist in completing the cage. We will provide whatever resources you need. And I must say, he paused, as if the words were difficult. Your species fights with honor. I was wrong about humanity. Marcus nodded, accepting the acknowledgement. We all fight with honor now. That is what the Devourers have never faced before. Not individual species trying to survive, but a galaxy that chooses to stand together. The gravitational cage was 78% complete when the Devourers arrived. They had found a different approach vector, one that avoided the strongest sections of the barrier. Marcus stood in the command center, watching as the main fleet emerged from the void like a plague of locusts. There were thousands of vessels, each one massive, each one capable of consuming entire worlds. The galaxy's combined defense fleet moved to intercept. Over the past months, the alliance had grown stronger. Species that had initially voted against cooperation had seen the Vanguard battle footage and changed their minds. Now nearly every civilization in the galaxy contributed to the defense, but it would not be enough. Marcus ran the calculations repeatedly, and every simulation ended the same way. The Devourers would breach the incomplete cage. They would scatter into the galaxy. Billions would die before they could be contained. We need to buy more time, he told the assembled War Council. Just 48 more hours to complete the cage's weak points. How do you propose we delay them? Throne Captain Vex asked. They have learned from the Vanguard battle. They will not be tricked the same way twice. Then we do not trick them, Marcus said. We negotiate. The council chamber erupted in protests. The Trell hive mind's 1,000 voices spoke as one. The Devourers do not negotiate. They do not communicate. They simply consume. That is what the ancient records say, Marcus agreed. But those records are millions of years old. Perhaps the Devourers have changed. Perhaps they have evolved. We have to try. The Luminar High Sage supported him. What do we have to lose? If Ambassador Webb can delay them even a few hours, it gives us time to strengthen the weak points. They sent a message on every possible frequency, using every known form of communication. Mathematical patterns, chemical signals, gravitational pulses, quantum entanglement. They tried everything to get the Devourer's attention. For 6 hours, there was no response. The massive fleet continued its inexorable advance toward the galaxy. Marcus was beginning to accept that the ancient records were correct. The Devourers did not communicate because they did not see other species as worthy of communication. Then a response came. Not words, but images transmitted directly into the minds of every sentient being in the command center. Marcus gasped as alien thoughts invaded his consciousness. The images showed galaxies consumed, worlds stripped bare, civilizations reduced to nothing. But there was context to the images, a perspective that the ancient records had missed. The Devourers were not mindless destroyers. They were harvesters. They consumed biological matter because they needed it to survive. It's the same way any species needed resources. More images flooded in. The Devourers showed their own history. They had once been like the younger species, confined to a single galaxy. But they had consumed everything in their home galaxy and had no choice but to move outward. Migration or extinction. They chose migration. The communication carried a message. Survival required consumption. It was the law of the universe. The strong fed on the weak. Marcus forced himself to respond, projecting his thoughts back toward the Devourer fleet. He showed them images of the alliance of thousands of species working together. He showed them that cooperation was possible, that survival did not require the destruction of others. The response was immediate and brutal. The Devo. Viewers sent images of countless civilizations that had tried cooperation, images of alliances that had failed, of species that had turned on each other, of cooperation collapsing into conflict. They had seen it happen 1,000,000 times. In the end, survival was individual. In the end, only the strong survived. Marcus sent one final message. He showed them Earth, small and blue and vulnerable. He showed them humanity's journey to the stars. He showed them the choice his species had made when they discovered they could have fled to other galaxies, but chose to stay and fight beside strangers who had judged them. He sent a simple thought. We choose to prove you wrong. The communication ended abruptly. The Devourers resumed their advance, accelerating toward the cage's weak points. They had rejected the offer of peace. But Marcus had bought time. 18 hours. It was not enough, but it was something. All fleets, engage, he ordered. Make every second count. The battle that followed would be remembered as the War of Unity. Every species in the galaxy contributed. The Valkyrie provided military strength. The Trell coordinated tactics across thousands of ships. The Luminars used their energy forms to sabotage Devourer vessels from within. The smaller species, those with no advanced weapons, provided support, supplies, and repairs, and humanity provided the threshold drives. Ships could appear anywhere on the battlefield instantly, striking and retreating before the Devourers could adapt. The enemy had never faced an opponent that could ignore distance and positioning, but still the Devourers pushed forward. Their numbers were overwhelming. For every vessel destroyed, 2 more took its place. They were adapting to the threshold tactics, developing countermeasures. Marcus watched the battle unfold and knew they were losing. The cage was 96% complete, but the Devourers would breach it within hours. He activated a private communication channel to the Luminar High Sage. I need to tell you something. About Protocol Last Light, the tactic your ships used against the Vanguard, the High Sage replied. Sacrificing themselves to create gravitational implosions? It was not just a tactic, Marcus said quietly. It was a test. We have been working on a larger application, much larger. Understanding dawned in the ancient being's consciousness. You can weaponize the threshold gates themselves. Every human colony has one, Marcus confirmed. If we overload them simultaneously, the gravitational shockwaves can be channeled through quantum entanglement. We can direct all that energy to the cage's anchor points. It would not just complete the cage. It would collapse it inward, crushing everything inside. Including our own fleets, the High Sage said. Including this command station? We have 30 minutes to evacuate everyone beyond the cage's perimeter, Marcus said. Most of the fleet can make it, but not all. How many colonies would you have to sacrifice? All of them. Every human settlement in 17 galaxies? We would cut ourselves off from our extragalactic colonies. Those 890 billion people would be isolated for centuries, maybe forever. The High Sage was silent for a long moment. That is too high a price. We cannot ask you to pay it. You're not asking, Marcus said. We are offering. This is what humanity does. We do not abandon our neighbors to extinction. He sent the order before the High Sage could argue further. Across 17 galaxies, human colonies received the command. Protocol Last Light. Full activation. Every man, woman, and child in those colonies knew what it meant. They had been briefed on the possibility months ago. They had voted on whether to approve it. The vote had been unanimous. Marcus watched his screens as confirmations came in. Colony after colony, world after world, humans said goodbye to their family and friends in the home galaxy. They knew they might never see them again. The threshold gates began overloading in perfect synchronization. 17 galaxies. 890 billion people. All willing to be isolated if it meant saving the others. The gravitational shockwave that resulted was visible across half the universe. Space itself screamed as the energy was channeled through quantum links to the cage's anchor points. The incomplete barrier suddenly became complete, and then something more. It collapsed inward with crushing force. Every devourer vessel within the cage was caught in the implosion. They tried to flee, but there was nowhere to go. The galaxy itself had become a trap, and the trap was closing. Marcus watched it happen from the command station. Now safely beyond the cage's perimeter, along with most of the fleet, the devourers were gone, crushed into a micro-singularity that winked out of existence. Within seconds, the ancient threat was no more, but the cost was staggering. Humanity had severed itself from its children. The colonies in Andromeda, Triangulum, and 15 other galaxies were now isolated. It would take centuries to rebuild the threshold network. You saved us, the Luminor, High Sage said quietly. You saved the entire galaxy. We saved each other, Marcus corrected. That was the point. The Galactic Council convened one final time in the Great Chamber, but the atmosphere was completely different from the trial 6 months ago. Where there had been judgment, now there was gratitude. Where there had been contempt, now there was respect. Marcus Webb stood on the central platform again, but this time he was not alone. Representatives from 100 human worlds stood beside him. They were not defendants. They were honored guests. The Luminar High Sage spoke first, its energy form pulsing with emotions that Marcus's translator could barely interpret. The Council has voted unanimously. The charges against humanity are not just dismissed. They are stricken from all records, as if they never existed. More than that, humanity is offered full membership in the Council of Apex Powers. 8 seats where once there were 7. The chamber erupted in applause, if applause was the right word for the 1,000 different ways species expressed approval. Clicking, whistling, electromagnetic pulses, and harmonic resonances filled the air. Marcus raised his hand, asking for silence. When the chamber quieted, he spoke. We appreciate the honor. Truly, we do. But we must decline. Shock rippled through the assembly. The Valkyrie matriarch leaned forward. You decline? After everything? Why? Because we do not want to be rulers, Marcus explained. We do not want power over others. We just want to be part of the community. We want to share what we know and learn from what you know. We want to be neighbors, not masters." He gestured at the displays showing human ships working alongside vessels from hundreds of other species. They were rebuilding damaged systems, sharing resources, helping refugees displaced by the battle. Humanity had not waited for council authorization. They had simply started helping wherever help was needed. "This is what we want," Marcus continued. "To be the species that builds bridges instead of walls. To be the people who show up when others need help. Not because we have to, but because we choose to." Throne Captain Vex stood, his massive form radiating something that might have been amusement. "You are very strange humans. You could have used your threshold technology to conquer us. You could have abandoned us to the Devourers. You could have demanded tribute for your sacrifice. Instead, you ask for nothing." "We ask for friendship," Marcus said. "We ask for partnership. We ask for a galaxy where species work together instead of competing. That is worth more than any seat on any council." The Trell Hive Mind's 1,000 voices spoke as one. The human philosophy is inefficient. It requires trust, which is a form of vulnerability. It requires sacrifice, which reduces individual advantage. By all logical calculations, your approach should fail. "Yet here we are," Marcus said with a smile. "Still standing. Still together," message interrupted the council session. It was transmitted from beyond the galaxy, using old-fashioned radio waves that had taken months to arrive. The signal was from Andromeda. From the human colonies that had been cut off by the collapse of the threshold. Network. The council chamber's displays showed the message. It was simple, almost casual. "We are okay. The gates are gone, but we are not stranded. We will keep the lights on out here. Come visit when you can. We are not going anywhere. Love from Andromeda. P.S. We are already building new gates. See you in about 200 years. Marcus felt tears in his eyes. His people were isolated in another galaxy, cut off from Earth for what might be centuries, and their message was optimistic. They were not asking for rescue. They were promising to keep humanity's flame burning until contact could be reestablished. The Luminar. High Sage floated closer to Marcus. "Why did you really come to that trial 6 months ago? You could have simply left. You had no reason to reveal yourselves to us." Marcus looked at the ancient being, at the representative of a species that had achieved transcendence millions of years ago. "Because someone once told me that the measure of a civilization is not how high it rises, it's whether it reaches back to lift others up. We wanted to see if you were worth saving. We wanted to know if the galactic community could be something better than what it was. And what did you learn? That every civilization is worth saving. Because every civilization can choose to be better than its fears. You judged us and found us wanting. But when the moment came, when the real threat arrived, you chose to stand together. You chose cooperation over retreat. You chose unity over survival. That is the galaxy we wanted to help save." The High Sage's energy form pulsed with what might have been laughter. "We have much to learn from you, Ambassador Webb. We have much to learn from each other," Marcus corrected. "That is how civilization advances. Not through conquest or domination, but through sharing and cooperation." The council session ended with a new resolution. Not exile, not judgment, but partnership. Humanity would maintain its colonies in the home galaxy. They would be welcome on any world, in any system. The threshold drive technology would be shared with any species willing to use it peacefully. And in return, humanity would learn from the accumulated wisdom of civilizations that had explored the stars for millions of years. Marcus returned to Earth for the first time in a year. He stood at the same observation deck where his journey had begun, looking out at the planet where humanity had first evolved. But now the view was different. The orbital space around Earth was filled with ships from 100 different species. They had come to see humanity's homeworld, to visit the birthplace of the species that had changed everything. A Velkar delegation was touring the Amazon rainforest. A group of Trell individuals temporarily separated from their hive mind were experiencing human music for the first time. Luminar energy beings were attending lectures at human universities. Sharing their knowledge of physics that transcended physical form, the galaxy had come to Earth not as conquerors or judges, but as friends. "We did it," a voice said beside him. Marcus turned to see his deputy, Ambassador Rachel Torres. She had coordinated the evacuation during the final battle, saving thousands of lives. "We actually did it. We changed the galaxy." "The galaxy changed us too," Marcus replied. "That is the point of civilization. We grow together, or we do not grow at all." A final message arrived from the isolated colonies. This one from Triangulum Galaxy. It showed human children playing with alien children, whose parents had been stationed there when the Threshold network collapsed. The species were learning to live together in isolation, creating something new. The message included a quote, "Words that would become humanity's legacy to the galaxy. We were once judged and found wanting. Given the chance, we chose to prove the judgment wrong. Now, you have that same chance. To be the galaxy that chose to stand together. To be the civilizations that reached for something greater than survival. To be the species that said no to extinction and yes to hope." Marcus watched Earth spin slowly below him, a blue marble covered in life, surrounded by ships from across the galaxy. The leaders had voted to exile Earth, but humanity had already gone beyond the galaxy in ways that had nothing to do with distance. They had gone beyond in spirit. In philosophy, in their fundamental understanding of what civilization could be, and in doing so, they had taken the entire galaxy with them. The story ended not with triumph or victory, but with beginning. The beginning of a new era where species did not compete for survival, but cooperated for prosperity. Where ancient fears gave way to hope. Where the darkness between galaxies was filled with light from civilizations working together, humanity had been judged. And humanity had judged in return. Both had been found wanting. Both had chosen to be better. That choice made all the difference. Retry Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses. Sonnet 4.5